It was just another morning for many people around the world, but for one young girl it was far from ordinary. She had been stuck in a difficult situation, feeling scared and unsure of what to do next. She tried reaching out for help in ways she could, but it felt like no one was really listening. Her phone was her only connection to the outside world, and she typed out a message with trembling fingers. It was short, but it carried all the urgency of her fear. She sent it hoping someone would notice, hoping someone would care. Somewhere else, Dwayne, known to many as The Rock, was checking messages and updates on his phone. He liked to keep up with social media not just for work, but to see what was happening in the world. It was easy to scroll past things, to look at the posts as entertainment. But today, one post made him pause. It wasn't flashy, it didn't have a lot of likes, and it wasn't designed to grab attention. It was simple, honest, and filled with worry. The Rock read the words slowly. He could feel the urgency in them. Something about the way the girl wrote, the way she reached out, struck him. He didn't know her, and yet he felt a responsibility to make sure she was safe. At almost the same time, John, better known as John Cena, was sitting in a quiet room scrolling through the internet. He often looked at news, sometimes for work, sometimes out of curiosity. Like many people, he ignored most posts. But a small message caught his eye. It was similar to the one The Rock had seen. The words were desperate but clear. A young girl was asking for help. There was no time to waste. Cena felt a pull, a sense that ignoring this would be wrong. He leaned closer to his screen, reading every word, trying to understand what was happening. The girl had been trying to stay calm, but every minute felt longer than the last. She had sent the message hoping someone would respond, and now she waited, not knowing if anyone would. It was easy to feel invisible when the world kept moving past you, when people scrolled and clicked without stopping. But she had taken a chance. She had reached out with hope, and even though she didn't know it, her message had already reached 2 people who could make a difference. The Rock did not immediately call anyone. He paused, thinking through what needed to happen first. He knew that just acting without a plan could make things worse. He started by noting the details from the message. There were small hints about her location, a few clues about where she might be. He reached out quietly to his team, people who helped him with real-life issues like this, people who could verify whether the message was genuine. It was important not to panic or act in a way that might draw attention to the girl and make her situation more dangerous. Every decision had to be careful, thoughtful, and fast. John Cena was taking a slightly different approach. He didn't have a team ready to act, but he had experience connecting with people who could help. He started by tracing the post's origins online, trying to get an idea of where the girl might be. It was not easy. She had been careful with the details, but she had left tiny clues that someone paying attention could follow. Cena took note of these. He knew that in situations like this, time was critical. He could not afford to wait for others to notice the message. He had to move. Hours passed, and the girl's fear grew. She tried to distract herself, hoping that someone would find her soon. She imagined what it would be like if no one came, and the thought made her shiver. But she also remembered that she had tried, that she had sent her SOS with hope. It was a small thing, but sometimes hope was all a person had. And now, somewhere far away, 2 people were paying attention. 2 people were moving quietly but determinedly to help. The Rock and Cena eventually discovered that they were both looking into the same message. It was a moment of surprise. They were known for their careers, for their rivalries in entertainment. But this was not about competition. This was about a human life. They decided to connect, to share what they had discovered so far. There was no room for ego, no need for publicity. The only goal was to ensure the girl's safety. They coordinated quietly, sharing notes, checking every detail, and planning their next steps carefully. As they worked, the girl continued to wait, unaware that 2 famous figures were now actively working on her rescue. She tried to stay calm, counting the minutes, reminding herself to breathe. She remembered her parents, her friends, and everything she wanted to do once she was safe again. These thoughts gave her a little strength, enough to keep trying, enough to believe that someone, somewhere, would see her message. The Rock reached out to local authorities in the area hinted at by the girl's message. He wanted to make sure professionals were involved, people trained to handle emergencies, but he asked for discretion. He did not want the situation to become a public spectacle before the girl was safe. Cena did the same. quietly alerting contacts who could trace the girl's online activity without exposing her location to the wrong people. Every action was calculated, every move meant to protect her. Meanwhile, the girl's phone buzzed occasionally, but she dared not answer unknown numbers. She was afraid of making a mistake that could worsen her situation. She stayed hidden, hoping that her message would be enough. And it was. Even though she did not know it, the right people were now working together, connecting the dots and preparing to find her. The Rock and Cena's coordination started to show results. They discovered small details from the message that helped narrow down the girl's location. It was not perfect, but it was enough to guide rescue efforts. The tension was high. Every minute mattered. Both men stayed in contact with each other, discussing the next steps, anticipating challenges, and preparing for every possible outcome. Their collaboration, driven purely by the desire to save someone in need, began to make a real difference. Back with the girl, she felt a mix of hope and fear. She did not understand why her message had not been ignored, why these strangers seemed to care so much. She tried to think logically, reminding herself to stay calm and to wait for help. Her mind wandered, imagining strangers coming to rescue her. She hoped they would arrive before anything bad happened, before the fear became unbearable. Every sound outside made her heart race, every shadow made her jump. And yet, deep down, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she was not alone. As the day turned into evening, the work to locate her intensified. The Rock checked every clue from the message, revisiting posts, double-checking information. Cena contacted people with technical skills, people who could track signals and confirm that the girl's location could be found. Both men were fully engaged, their focus unwavering. They were no longer thinking about fame, cameras, or entertainment. Their only thought was her safety. Finally, small progress began to emerge. They got a more precise idea of where she might be. It was still a remote area, difficult to reach, but it was something. The Rock arranged for resources that could reach the location quickly, including vehicles suited for rough terrain. Cena prepared contacts who could assist with communication, ensuring the rescue team could coordinate effectively. They were building a bridge between the girl and safety, brick by brick, step by step. The girl, still unaware of how close help was, tried to stay occupied. She whispered to herself, reassuring her own courage. She thought about what she would say to her rescuers, how thankful she would be. She did not know their names, but she knew that somewhere, someone was listening. Someone cared enough to act. That thought, fragile but bright, kept her going. As night fell, the efforts of the Rock and Cena continued. They were determined, patient, and careful. They communicated constantly, making sure no detail was overlooked. Each small piece of information brought them closer to the girl. Every hour of waiting for her was matched by hours of planning and action. They understood that one mistake could have consequences, but they also understood that action, the right kind of action, could save a life. And so the story continued, the beginning of a rescue shaped by courage, attention, and human kindness. Two strangers, both known to the world, were working together for a girl they had never met. And one young girl, lost and scared, had sent a simple SOS that had set all of this in motion. It was a reminder that sometimes hope comes in the smallest messages, that sometimes the right people notice, and that sometimes heroes are those who act quietly with determination to make a difference. The first part of this story ends here, at the moment just before real action begins. With hope and determination poised to meet fear and uncertainty, the Rock and Cena had seen the message. They had made a choice to act, and somewhere in the darkness a young girl waited, not knowing that she was no longer alone and that help was already on its way. As the night deepened, the Rock and John Cena worked tirelessly, determined to find the girl before anything dangerous could happen. The clues she had left behind were few, but they were enough for careful people to follow. Both men understood that this was not just about fame or attention. This was about a human life, and every decision mattered. The Rock started by analyzing every word in the SOS message again. There were tiny hints about her surroundings, like the sounds she mentioned and small landmarks she had described. Even the way she wrote gave him clues about her situation, her age, and the urgency of her fear. He shared his findings with Cena, who was tracing the digital signals and trying to figure out the approximate location of the message. Their efforts, separate at first, now joined into one strong, coordinated attempt. While they worked, the girl tried to stay calm in the small space where she had taken refuge. The wind outside was cold, and she could hear noises that made her heart race. She wished she could know that someone was listening, that help was on the way. Each passing hour was heavy, and yet she reminded herself to stay strong. She repeated quietly to herself that she had reached out for help, and she had to believe that help would come. The Rock arranged for local resources to be ready at a moment's notice. He contacted people who could navigate through difficult terrain and reach remote areas quickly. Cena, meanwhile, worked through digital channels, tracing the signal and checking for patterns in the girl's online activity that could pinpoint her exact location. Both men were aware that any false move could put the girl in more danger, so they proceeded carefully, discussing each step with the teams they trusted. Hours passed as the search continued. The Rock and Cena stayed in constant communication, comparing notes and sharing new findings. Every piece of information mattered. A description of a tree in the background, the sound of running water, the type of street or path she mentioned. They all became important clues. The two men were focused, fully committed, and determined not to let anything slip through. Meanwhile, the girl's anxiety grew. She had tried to stay quiet, hoping no one would find her until she was safe. Every creak in the floor, every rustle outside made her jump. Her mind raced with fears about being alone, about whether anyone would respond in time. Yet deep inside, there was a flicker of hope. Somehow she believed that help was coming. She did not know who would come or how, but she hoped someone was listening. The Rock and Cena decided to involve local authorities discreetly. They wanted to make sure trained professionals were available to handle the rescue safely. At the same time, they prepared their own support teams. The Rock arranged vehicles that could traverse rough terrain and carry necessary equipment. Cena ensured there were communication devices and backup plans to coordinate the efforts effectively. Their collaboration was seamless, built on a shared commitment to saving the girl. As night turned into early morning, the team had narrowed down the possible locations. The Rock and Cena stayed alert, knowing that dawn could bring both opportunity and challenges. They spoke constantly, checking each detail, making sure nothing was overlooked. Every hour brought them closer, and yet every moment was filled with tension because they knew the girl was still waiting, unaware of how close safety was. The girl, still in her hiding spot, tried to focus on small tasks to keep herself calm. She counted, whispered to herself, and imagined the faces of people who might come to help. The hours felt endless, but she held on to the tiny belief that someone was paying attention. She had sent her SOS not knowing if it would work, and now, though she did not know it, two strangers had devoted themselves entirely to finding her. By mid-morning, the rescue team was ready to move. The Rock had arranged everything: transportation, equipment, and local guides who could navigate difficult paths. Cena coordinated with communication experts, ensuring that the team could maintain contact with each other and the girl once they reached her. Every detail was double-checked because the team knew that even small mistakes could have serious consequences. The girl, still hidden, felt the first signs of movement outside. She could hear voices faintly and the crunch of footsteps on leaves. Her heart jumped, half from fear and half from hope. She wanted to believe these were people who had come for her. She stayed still, holding her breath, trying not to make any sudden movements. Each sound brought her closer to the reality that help was finally near. The Rock and Cena monitored everything closely. They stayed in contact with the rescue team, giving updates and guiding them as new information came in. They were fully invested in every moment, focused on the safety of the girl above all else. The tension was high, but they remained calm because they knew that panic could endanger everyone involved. Finally, the team approached the area they believed the girl was in. They moved slowly, carefully, scanning the surroundings. The Rock and Cena remained on the line, communicating instructions and encouragement. The girl could hear the voices growing closer, though she could not yet see anyone. Her hope grew with each passing second, but so did her anxiety. She wondered if she would be recognized, if the rescuers would know exactly who she was, and if she would finally be safe. When the rescue team spotted her, they moved quickly and carefully. The girl saw familiar faces in the form of uniforms and heard reassuring voices. Relief washed over her in waves. She stepped out slowly, her fear giving way to gratitude. The Rock and Cena had stayed connected with the team the entire time, ensuring that every move was safe and every precaution taken. Their dedication had paid off. The girl was finally safe, and the first thing she did was thank the rescuers. She could not believe that two strangers had taken so much care to find her. Her fear slowly ebbed, replaced by relief and a deep sense of gratitude. She had reached out with hope, and hope had been answered in a way she never imagined. After the rescue, The Rock and Cena took a moment to reflect. They knew this was more than just saving a life. It was a reminder of the power of human kindness and attention. They had worked together without concern for fame or recognition. Their focus had been entirely on ensuring someone in need was safe. And in doing so, they had shown what it meant to act selflessly, guided by empathy and a commitment to doing the right thing. The girl, once frightened and alone, now felt secure. She would later share her story, explaining how two strangers had come together to answer her SOS. She described the fear she felt and the hope that kept her going, emphasizing how much it meant to have someone notice and act. Her story became a symbol of the importance of listening, of noticing when someone is in trouble, and of the difference that quick, thoughtful action can make. The Rock and Cena's actions inspired others as well. Their collaboration became a quiet example of how people, even famous ones, can use their resources for good. They showed that real influence comes not from attention or recognition, but from caring, planning, and taking steps to make a difference. Their teamwork reminded the world that human lives are precious and that even small messages of distress deserve attention. In the end, the night of fear turned into a morning of safety. The girl was no longer alone. The Rock and Cena had ensured that she was protected, and their combined efforts had created a story of courage, kindness, and careful action. Every second of planning and collaboration had been worth it. The girl's SOS had not gone unheard, and her life had been changed by the dedication of two men who chose to act when it mattered most. The second part of the story ends here, showing the progress from fear to hope, from isolation to connection, and from danger to safety. The journey continues, as the aftermath of the rescue reveals the impact of their actions and the lasting impression of human kindness in a world where many messages are overlooked. The morning sun had barely begun to rise when the girl was finally safe with the rescue team. Her hands trembled and her voice shook as she tried to explain what had happened. The memories of being alone and scared were still fresh, and she could not stop thinking about how close she had come to danger. The rescuers spoke gently, reassuring her that she was safe now and that help had arrived just in time. But in her heart, she still wondered how two strangers had taken such care to find her. Far away, The Rock and John Cena were both relieved, yet they knew their work was not finished. Their job was not only to make sure she was safe physically, but to ensure that the aftermath of the ordeal would be handled with care. They reached out to local authorities and social workers to make arrangements for her comfort and support. She would need someone to help her process the fear and anxiety she had experienced, and both men wanted to make sure she had access to that support. The girl was offered a warm place to stay, food, and clothing. She was exhausted, but the attention she received made her feel valued and seen. For the first time in many hours, she was able to breathe and relax. She realized that the SOS message she had sent was more than just a cry for help. It had become a bridge connecting her to people who genuinely cared. The Rock and Cena, though still far away, continued to monitor the situation, checking in to make sure that everything was going smoothly. Both men reflected on how quickly events had escalated. A simple online message had transformed into a coordinated rescue operation involving professionals, technology, and teamwork. They knew that many people might have scrolled past the message, ignoring it, but they had chosen to act. This was not about attention or recognition. It was about doing the right thing. Their focus remained on the girl's well-being, and that dedication had made all the difference. As the day progressed, the girl began to relax slightly. She started telling her story to the social workers, explaining how she had ended up in such a situation and what had happened in the hours leading up to her rescue. Her voice was still quiet, but there was a hint of strength returning. She spoke about the fear, the loneliness, and the hope she had held on to. She had never expected anyone to respond, yet somehow, two strangers had seen her message and taken it seriously. The Rock and Cena knew that the girl's story had the power to inspire. They discussed the importance of not exploiting her experience, but using it to encourage awareness and responsibility. They wanted people to understand that sometimes messages for help are real, and that paying attention can save lives. They hoped that the girl's courage and the response it triggered would remind others to be vigilant compassionate, and proactive. Meanwhile, the girl's trust in strangers began to grow. She realized that people could act with kindness even when there was nothing to gain. She started to feel safe again, understanding that the world was not entirely filled with danger and indifference. Her gratitude toward the Rock and Cena was immense, even though she had never met them in person. Their actions had changed her life, and she knew she would never forget the sense of care and urgency they had shown. As the day wore on, the rescue team and social workers worked on helping the girl return home safely. She needed reassurance and guidance, and both men continued to stay involved from afar. The Rock arranged for local transportation to ensure she could reach home securely. Cena monitored communication, making sure that the arrangements were coordinated and that no detail was overlooked. Their dedication continued, proving that even after a rescue, support and guidance were necessary for full recovery. The girl was allowed to contact her family, who had been frantic with worry. Her voice, though shaky at first, carried relief and joy. Her family could not believe that help had arrived so quickly, and that she had been protected throughout the ordeal. They were grateful beyond words, and they wanted to know how such a thing had happened. While the specifics of the coordination remained largely private, they understood that it was the result of care, attention, and fast action by people who had chosen to respond. The Rock and Cena, meanwhile, reflected on the lessons of the experience. They knew that attention to detail and collaboration were critical, but they also realized the importance of empathy. A simple act of noticing a message, taking it seriously, and moving quickly could save a life. They felt proud, but more than that, they felt the weight of responsibility and the value of human connection. This event reminded them that influence and resources are most meaningful when used to help others. The girl's day slowly turned from fear to recovery. She was able to eat, rest, and feel the presence of people who cared about her safety. Every small act of kindness helped rebuild her confidence and her sense of security. She started to understand that the world could hold compassion, that strangers could act with integrity and urgency, and that hope could be realized in the most unexpected ways. By evening, the girl had begun to tell a fuller story, recounting not only the events that led to her distress, but also how she had reached out for help. She expressed her fear, her hope, and her relief. Social workers noted how her courage had made a difference and encouraged her to continue speaking about her experience in a safe, controlled environment. They emphasized that her bravery in sending the SOS message had been the first step in her rescue, and that her actions could inspire others to ask for help when needed. The Rock and Cena stayed informed as the girl recovered. They checked in to make sure she was comfortable, that her needs were being met, and that she had access to emotional support. Both men felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their intervention had gone beyond immediate rescue and had contributed to her overall well-being. They understood that true help does not stop at physical safety, but continues until the person is secure and supported. The girl's family later joined her, expressing endless gratitude for the care she had received. They were amazed that two people they had never met had taken the time and effort to ensure her safety. They asked questions, wanting to understand how such a rescue had been possible. They learned about the careful coordination, the analysis of clues, and the fast, quiet action that had saved her life. Their admiration and relief were palpable. The Rock and Cena considered the broader impact of the event. They realized that this story could teach a larger lesson about responsibility, attention, and human kindness. They hoped that people would be reminded that an SOS, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, should be taken seriously. They wanted others to recognize that a life could be saved through awareness, empathy, and decisive action. The story of the girl's rescue became a reminder that courage and kindness could intersect in powerful ways. The girl, now calm and recovering, reflected on her experience. She realized that the world could respond to her in the most unexpected ways. Her SOS had been seen, believed, and acted upon. She felt a deep sense of gratitude not only for the physical rescue, but for the care, empathy, and urgency that had been shown. Her courage in reaching out had been met with dedication and support from people she would never forget. As night fell, both The Rock and Cena paused to reflect on the day's events. They had acted without seeking attention, moved by the instinct to help someone in need. They understood that their actions, while quiet, had a profound effect on a human life. The success of the rescue was a testament to focus, coordination, and above all, compassion. They knew that these moments defined what it meant to truly make a difference. The third part of the story ends with the girl safe, recovering, and surrounded by care. The Rock and Cena, though still distant, continued to monitor and support her well-being. Their actions demonstrate that true heroism is not about recognition, but about acting decisively to protect and support someone in need. This part of the story emphasizes human kindness, careful planning, and the lasting impact of attentive action. The following day was filled with careful steps to ensure the girl's continued safety and comfort. She had slept well for the first time since her ordeal, but there was still a lingering unease. The fear she had carried for hours was slowly being replaced by relief, yet she knew she needed support to fully recover. Social workers and volunteers stayed close, offering guidance and reassurance. They encouraged her to talk about her experience, to express her feelings, and to regain a sense of normalcy. The Rock checked in from a distance, receiving updates on her condition and progress. He was relieved to hear that she was resting and that the professionals around her were attentive and compassionate. He also made arrangements for anything she might need, ensuring that food, clothing, and transportation were available when necessary. His attention to detail and commitment to her safety was evident, even though he remained out of sight, allowing the girl to feel secure and private. John Cena, likewise, stayed connected to ensure communication was seamless between all the teams involved. He helped coordinate schedules, transportation, and any additional support that might be required. Both men understood that the rescue was only the beginning. Ensuring her emotional and physical recovery required patience and careful planning. Their involvement remained discreet but thorough, focused solely on her well-being. The girl began to talk more openly about what had happened. At first, she spoke in short sentences, her voice trembling. But as she felt safer, she shared more details about her fear, the moments of loneliness, and the small decisions she had made to protect herself. Each detail helped the social workers understand the depth of her experience, and it also helped her process what she had been through. Sharing her story became a part of her healing. Her family arrived later in the day. Their relief was overwhelming, and tears flowed freely as they embraced her. They had been frantic, unsure of what had happened, and the reunion brought a mix of joy, gratitude, and lingering anxiety. The girl reassured them, telling them that she was safe and that she had been cared for by people who acted quickly and decisively. She did not yet know the full extent of who had helped her, but she felt the presence of care and concern everywhere she turned. The Rock and Cena were informed of the reunion and the girl's growing comfort. They felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their actions had contributed not just to her immediate safety, but to the reassurance and peace of her entire family. They reflected on the power of attentive action and human empathy. A small message online had led to a large-scale coordinated effort that saved a life and brought hope to a frightened girl and her family. The girl started to feel a sense of empowerment as she realized her courage had made a difference. She had reached out when she was scared, and people had responded. This realization gave her strength and confidence. She began to smile more, to laugh softly, and to engage with those around her. The presence of her family, the support of professionals, and the unseen efforts of the Rock and Cena helped her feel anchored and secure. As the day went on, the focus shifted to planning her safe return home. Transportation had to be arranged carefully, ensuring that she would not face any danger along the way. The Rock coordinated with local authorities to provide secure transit, while Cena oversaw communication lines and monitored updates. The process was meticulous, each step checked and rechecked to prevent any mistakes. Their careful attention highlighted the importance of thorough planning, even after the immediate danger had passed. The girl spent time with her family, sharing her story in small doses. They listened intently, asking gentle questions and offering comfort. She expressed her gratitude to those who had rescued her, though she did not yet know the full extent of who had helped behind the scenes. The realization that strangers could care so deeply began to shift her perspective. She felt a renewed sense of trust in people and hope for the future. The Rock and Cena continued to receive updates as the evening approached. The girl was calm, fed, rested, and more confident than before. Both men understood that recovery would take time, but they also knew that the immediate danger had passed thanks to their actions and the coordinated efforts of the teams on the ground. They were content knowing that the girl was in good hands and that her journey toward safety and healing was well underway. Social workers encouraged the girl to write down her thoughts and feelings. This exercise was meant to help her process the trauma and reflect on the experience. She wrote carefully, her handwriting unsteady but purposeful. As she recorded the events of the past day, she realized the courage it took to reach out for help and the incredible response that followed. She understood that her actions had mattered, and that she had been heard when it counted most. Her family continued to provide comfort and encouragement. They reassured her that it was okay to feel scared, to be emotional, and to take time to recover. The girl listened and absorbed their words, feeling a growing sense of safety and belonging. She had endured a frightening ordeal, but now she felt supported, loved, and protected. The Rock and Cena, though still distant, reflected on the significance of their efforts. They had acted quickly, coordinated carefully, and prioritized human life above everything else. Their actions demonstrated that true responsibility involves attention, empathy, and decisive action. They hoped that this experience could inspire others to notice cries for help, to act when necessary, and to recognize that even small messages of distress can carry immense importance. As night fell, the girl felt a sense of peace she had not experienced in a long time. The fear that had gripped her was slowly being replaced by relief and gratitude. She thought about the people who had helped her, and realized that kindness could come from unexpected places. She had been alone and scared, but now she was surrounded by care, compassion, and protection. The Rock and Cena stayed connected, ensuring that final arrangements for her safe return home were in place. Their work was nearly complete, but they remained vigilant until every detail was confirmed. They understood that responsibility does not end with immediate action, but continues until the person is fully safe and supported. Their dedication exemplified true empathy and concern for human life. The girl's story began to take shape in her mind as she processed the events of the day. She reflected on the courage it took to reach out, the rapid response of those who cared, and the importance of believing that someone would listen. She realized that hope in action, no matter how small, could have a profound impact on life and safety. Her family prepared to help her transition back to her daily life. They discussed routines, safety measures, and ways to provide continued support. The girl felt empowered by their care and guidance. She knew that she had faced a frightening situation, but she also knew that she had survived, and that people had stepped in to protect her. The Rock and Cena concluded their day with a sense of quiet satisfaction. They had acted not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Their involvement had ensured that a young girl was safe, supported, and on the path to recovery. They had witnessed the impact of attention, empathy, and swift action, understanding that such efforts could change lives in meaningful ways. The fourth part of the story ends with the girl secure, calm, and supported by her family and professionals. The efforts of the Rock and Cena remain a guiding presence, showing how decisive action, careful planning, and genuine concern can provide safety, hope, and reassurance. This part emphasizes the continued human connection, the importance of empathy, and the lasting impact of caring attention after a crisis. The girl's safe return home marked the beginning of a new chapter. She was surrounded by her family, who had been deeply worried and now could finally breathe with relief. The events of the past days had left their mark on her, but they also showed her that even in moments of fear, hope could exist. The kindness of strangers, the dedication of people she had never met, and the support from professionals reminded her that she was not alone in the world. The Rock and Cena continued to stay informed, checking on her well-being and ensuring that she had everything she needed. They had acted quickly and decisively when they saw her SOS, but their concern went beyond the initial rescue. They wanted to make sure that the girl felt safe, supported, and understood. Their dedication exemplified the idea that helping someone is not just about immediate action, but also about ensuring long-term care. The girl slowly started sharing her experience with her family and close friends. She spoke about the fear and loneliness she had felt, but also about the courage she had found to reach out for help. She described the relief she felt when she realized people were acting to find her. Her story became a lesson in bravery, resilience, and the power of small actions. The simple act of sending an SOS had set a chain of events into motion that changed her life forever. Both The Rock and Cena reflected on the significance of their involvement. They realized that their fame could draw attention, but in this case it was not about recognition. It was about responsibility, empathy, and humanity. They were reminded that influence should be used for good, to help others and to take action when someone is in danger. Their quiet, careful coordination had not only saved a life, but had also set an example of how people should respond when they see someone in need. The girl's recovery continued over the following days. She received emotional support and guidance to help her process the trauma she had experienced. Social workers encouraged her to express her feelings and reassured her that what she went through was not her fault. Her family provided comfort and consistency, helping her feel secure once again. Each day she regained more confidence and strength, understanding that the world could be both frightening and compassionate at the same time. The Rock and Cena remained involved discreetly. They followed updates from social workers and ensured that any additional needs were met. Their focus was entirely on the girl's well-being, not on public recognition. They understood that sometimes the most meaningful acts of kindness are those that happen quietly, without attention, but with full commitment to the person being helped. The girl began to reflect on her own courage. She realized that reaching out for help had required bravery and trust. She had taken a chance by sending her SOS, and her decision had been validated by the response she received. This awareness strengthened her, giving her confidence that she could face challenges in the future. She understood that human connection, empathy, and action could create safety and hope even in the darkest moments. Her family watched her regain confidence with relief and pride. They saw her start to smile more, speak freely, and engage with the world around her. The trauma of the past days remained in memory, but it was slowly being replaced by resilience and gratitude. They also recognized the role of the Rock and Cena in ensuring her safety, understanding that their decisive actions had made a profound difference. They were deeply thankful for the care and attention that had been shown to their daughter. The story of the rescue began to spread quietly through communities and social circles. People admired the courage of the girl and the swift, compassionate response of those who had helped her. It became a reminder that small messages, when noticed and acted upon, could save lives. It also emphasized that true heroism often exists behind the scenes, in careful planning, empathy, and decisive action rather than public recognition or applause. The girl gradually resumed her routine, feeling safer and more secure. She started attending school again, reconnecting with friends and engaging in activities she enjoyed. The trauma was still present in her mind at times, but she now had the tools and support to handle it. Her experience also taught her the value of reaching out, trusting others, and believing in the possibility of help and kindness. The Rock and Cena reflected on the broader impact of the event. They realized that their efforts went beyond saving a single life. They had highlighted the importance of paying attention, acting quickly, and using one's influence responsibly. Their actions demonstrated that caring for others and responding to cries for help could create meaningful change. They also understood that ordinary people, when alert and compassionate, could have the same life-saving impact. The girl eventually shared her story in her own words, describing her fear, the decision to send an SOS, and the relief she felt when help arrived. She spoke about the invisible hands that guided her to safety, emphasizing the power of empathy and swift action. Her story inspired others to take cries for help seriously, to be alert to those in need, and to understand that small actions can have a profound impact. Her family expressed their gratitude repeatedly, acknowledging the commitment and care that had ensured her safety. They praised the professionals involved and the unseen heroes who had coordinated the rescue. Their relief and appreciation reflected the depth of the experience, showing how acts of kindness ripple beyond the individual directly helped. The Rock and Cena, though remaining private about their involvement, felt the fulfillment that comes from knowing a life had been changed for the better. They had acted on instinct, responsibility, and empathy. Their quiet efforts had created a story of hope, courage, and human connection that would remain a meaningful example for years to come. The girl, strengthened by her experience, carried the lessons with her into her future. She understood the importance of asking for help, trusting in human kindness, and having hope even in difficult situations. She felt empowered by the fact that her actions had mattered, and that the world could respond in caring and decisive ways. The final days of her recovery were filled with love, support, and growing confidence. The fear that had once dominated her life had been replaced with a sense of safety and trust. She began to engage with the world around her with renewed energy, inspired by the actions of those who had taken her SOS seriously. Her life had been changed by empathy and action, and she carried that awareness forward in everything she did. The Rock and Cena's efforts exemplified how true impact is measured not by recognition or fame, but by the lives touched and the hope restored. Their dedication, focus, and careful planning had not only saved a life but had strengthened the bond between human courage and human kindness. The story of the girl's SOS and the response it inspired became a testament to the power of paying attention, acting with empathy, and valuing human life above all. The final part of the story ends with the girl safe, her family reassured, and the world reminded that small messages of help can lead to significant, life-saving actions. It is a story of courage, connection, and the enduring power of kindness, highlighting that real heroes are those who act decisively, compassionately, and with unwavering care for others. The legacy of this rescue remains a quiet but powerful example of how human attention and action can truly change lives.